Welcome to Wawa Songwire. Today, we're talking about Puad Zarkashi's take on Muhyiddin Yassin's alleged hypocrisy regarding power transitions. So things are really heating up politically. We've got this major statement from UMNO Supreme Council member Puad Zarkashi, and it's definitely thrown some fuel on the fire, especially within Parti Pribumi Bersatu Malaysia.
Absolutely. And what's really interesting is how this whole conflict seems to pivot on language, specifically the difference between asking for a resignation and asking for a power transition.
Right. It sounds like semantics, but Puad is using it to launch quite a broadside, not just at Muhyiddin Yassin, the chairman of Parti Pribumi Bersatu Malaysia, but also targeting his allies, like Wan Saiful.
Exactly. Puad's framing Wan Saiful in this, well, quite pointed way. He's basically saying Wan Saiful manages to look both brave and cowardly at the same time.
Okay, let's unpack that. Brave and cowardly. How does that work? Where's the bravery part coming from, according to Puad?
Well, the bravery Puad points to is Wan Saiful's apparent willingness to bring sensitive issues to light. Specifically, he mentions the issue concerning the alleged male-male sex video that involved Datuk Seri Azmin Ali, who's the Secretary General of Parti Pribumi Bersatu Malaysia.
Ah, okay, so tackling a major internal scandal like that.
Right. Puad acknowledges that exposing something potentially damaging about such a high-ranking figure within your own political circle, well, it takes a certain amount of nerve. That's the bravery he's crediting Wan Saiful with.
But then Puad contrasts this sharply with what he calls cowardice. And this part focuses squarely on Muhyiddin Yassin himself, doesn't it?
Yes, precisely. The accusation shifts when the focus is on Muhyiddin's position as party chairman. This revolves around those demands for Muhyiddin to step down.
You mean the 120 statutory declarations? The SDs from the divisional chiefs?
That's the one. When Wan Saiful addressed this, he was very careful with his words. He insisted these SDs were not about forcing Muhyiddin to resign.
Okay. So what were they about then?
According to Wan Saiful, they were simply a request for an immediate power transition.
An immediate power transition. Okay, wait. Let's just stop there for a second. If you've got 120 divisional chiefs signing legal documents, that's a pretty significant chunk of the party's grassroots, right?
Oh, absolutely. It represents serious pressure from the ground up.
So how is that not effectively telling the leader, we want you gone? Why the careful phrasing? What's the difference Puad is dismissing here?
Well, Puad basically calls it out as, evasive language. His rhetorical question is pretty much, what's the real difference? Isn't suggesting a power transition just a slightly more polite way of demanding Muhyiddin resign?
Is it possible it's strategic, though? Maybe transition allows Muhyiddin, some say in the handover, a bit more face-saving, whereas resignation is just out.
That's certainly one interpretation, a tactical choice, but Puad Zarkashi suggests a different motivation. He implies this choice of words stems from,
Fear?
Fear of what? Fear of expulsion from Parti Pribumi Bersatu Malaysia. Puad suggests that within that party, directly challenging the leader and demanding resignation is perhaps such a taboo, such a dangerous move, that they have to resort to this sort of roundabout phrasing.
So using power transition is seen as a safer way to push for change without triggering maybe severe repercussions.
That seems to be Puad's reading of it. He sees it less as strategy and more as evidence of Wan Saiful being, well, cowardly, because he won't just say what Puad believes he means, which is resign. It points towards a potentially fragile internal culture.
And this whole debate about words leads directly into Puad's main attack, doesn't it? The accusation of hypocrisy aimed right at Muhyiddin Yassin.
Yes, this is where Puad really twists the knife, politically speaking. He argues that Muhyiddin, of all people, should understand exactly what's meant by calls for an immediate power transition.
Why? Because he's been there before.
Not just been there, but according to Puad, Muhyiddin was the one applying that very same pressure tactic years ago. He argues Muhyiddin should know this very well.
Right, you're talking about the Abdullah Badawi situation. Can you remind us what happened there? What pressure did Muhyiddin apply?
Certainly. This goes back to the period after the 2008 general election, which was quite a setback for UMNO at the time. Abdullah Badawi was facing immense pressure from within the party.
And Muhyiddin was a key figure then.
A very key figure. He was among the most prominent voices calling for change at the top. And Puad highlights that Muhyiddin's specific demand, made publicly and repeatedly, was for Abdullah Badawi to implement an immediate power transition.
The exact same phrase being used now.
The exact same phrase. And Puad's interpretation is crystal clear. Back then, Muhyiddin wasn't just suggesting a polite handover. He was effectively using that phrase as pressure to force Abdullah Badawi to resign.
And Abdullah Badawi. He did resign eventually, right?
He did. He stepped down under that concerted pressure where the call for an immediate power transition was a central part of the campaign against him.
So the irony here is pretty stark. Puad is painting a picture where Muhyiddin used power transition as a tool to oust a leader back when he was the challenger.
Correct. He knew its political weight, its implication.
But now, when he's the leader of Parti Pribumi Bersatu Malaysia, and his own members use the same phrase, backed by 120 SDs, he's resisting it. He doesn't see it as a demand to step down.
That's precisely the hypocrisy Puad is alleging. He directly states, Muhyiddin seems to have forgotten what he did to Badawi. The standard appears to have changed now that Muhyiddin is the one in the hot seat.
It really puts the leadership of Parti Pribumi Bersatu Malaysia in a difficult spot, doesn't it? Makes them look perhaps inconsistent or maybe even self-serving if they don't apply the same rules to themselves.
It certainly raises questions about consistency and precedent in political leadership changes.
So, stepping back from the immediate political drama, what does all this tell us? For you listening, what's the bigger picture here about how power works or doesn't work within these parties?
Well, one major takeaway is what this reliance on careful semantics and legal tools like statutory declarations suggests about the internal party dynamics.
You mean the fact they didn't just call for a vote or make a direct demand?
Exactly. If party members, even a large number of divisional chiefs, feel they need to use SDs and coded language like power transition instead of directly calling for resignation, it might signal, well, a lack of confidence in the formal processes, or perhaps a fear of direct confrontation and its consequences.
Suggests maybe the party runs more on personal loyalty or fear than established democratic norms.
That's one possible interpretation Puad's critique invites. It could indicate an underlying fragility or a culture where challenging the leader openly is seen as too risky.
And the other big point seems to be about political memory, right? How past actions just don't disappear.
Absolutely. What goes around comes around, politically speaking. Puad is effectively reminding everyone that the methods Muhyiddin allegedly used to gain influence are now being turned against him. It's a classic example of political history repeating itself, or at least rhyming.
So it really forces us, and maybe you listening, to think about that phrase, power transition. Is it genuinely different from resignation? Especially when you have, 120 chiefs signing on the dotted line.
It really highlights the situational nature of political language, doesn't it? Forces us to confront that the meaning seems to depend entirely on whether you're the one demanding change or the one being asked to change.
Like the difference between asking someone to take early retirement versus just firing them. The end result might be the same, they leave, but the language serves different purposes.
Precisely. The language might be intended to shield the challengers, to maintain a veneer of propriety while still achieving the desired outcome.
So reflecting on all this.
Yeah, the central paradox really stands out. How demands for change are framed when you're pushing from the outside versus how they're deflected when you're defending from the inside. Puad Zarkashi's statements, whether you agree with his motives or not, certainly give us a sharp look into how leadership challenges are actually navigated or resisted within major Malaysian political parties. It's less about the dictionary definition and more about the political context.
Remember to like and subscribe for more videos like this.